This has been tested. Cleaner and dull range do not work together, okay? It does sound like a very good combo, but the cleaner will not give you that extra attack. Can everybody just give a moment of silence and sadness for Linus looking like the most... So guys, welcome to another new unit analysis. This is going to be great stuff. We're going to be talking about these new units that came out, Scattered Fangs. We have a lot of surprises, but we also have maybe some more underwhelming things to talk about. First of all, we have Karla here, who's a 35 attack, 40 speed, pretty low defenses, and decent HP. At least 40 is pretty decent compared to old school stuff. So most people look at the stat line and be like, oh my god, Ira power creep or Mia power creep. But the thing is, she's not necessarily power creeping those two in different ways. If you guys know how Vassal's Blade works, she's basically going to be doing a lot of damage as long as she can outspeed a lot of units by a big gap. It is true damage, so by using her weapon and trying to reach some pretty good blistering speeds, she does have a super boon in speed, by the way, so it reaches like 44 speed. She's going to be doing a lot more consistent damage than what both Ira and Mia can do. And I don't want to necessarily say she's strictly better, because Ira still has her really awesome Ragnall Astra, which is a lot of extra damage, doesn't like cap out. Things like Moonbow or Luna are kind of required upon using her. And then you have things like Aether, which if you're going to be at the top of the arena, you're forced into using things like Aether. Now, Vassal's Blade does reduce your cooldown by 1, and it does make it easier to use Aether, along with Wrath also giving you cooldown reduction. But I wanted to mention that since her really low bulk, she's not going to be able to really take retaliation hits that well. I mean, 65 physical bulk and 64 resistance is fairly good, but to use Wrath correctly, you're going to have to get into one engagement to set up Wrath. And at that point, you could be looking at not really utilizing the Vassal's Blade to the true potential by doubling, right? Because you only get like one hit, and if you don't kill that way, then you're in a bit of trouble. Something like a Desperation Seal will make her extremely good. But for now, that is not on the table, and if that were to come out, then I feel like, you know, Karla could be one of the strongest units in the game, should that be a thing. Now, comparatively speaking, her stat line is identical to Mia, because Mia has 32 attack and 40 speed, with Karla having a 1 additional speed boost if she does end up having that speed super boon. But Mia does have a Woe Resolute Blade that, and of course I know Mia's 32, 40, but her Resolute Blade gives her 3 attacks. That's what I mean, like identical stats. The thing with that though, comparing to Mia, is Mia has 20 true damage combining Wrath and her Resolute Blade, and that is really hard to beat when it comes to straight up burst damage, which beats out both Ira and Karla in a single hit. Okay, we're talking strictly one single hit. A charged up Aether, Wrath, Resolute Blade is still Mia is going to have that as the biggest hit you can do from red swords, red infantry swords. And we're not going to talk about Zelgius. He can go out there. Zelgius can just go into his own room, because Zelgius kind of like what we're not. No, Black Luna is its own thing. We're talking about Aether, Ragnall Astra, of course, in this scenario, to see like the most damage you can do. So Karla's base kit is fairly good. You don't really have to change very much. You could even keep Speed Wave, which will help her out for self-buffing. It scales with her Vassal's Blade if you do run into some really speedy stuff, like you went into Robin, you run into Amelia, run into Zelgius, who's running like 40 speed. You got to make sure you do ensure that you have as much speed over them as possible to get that bonus damage. So if you're going to synergize with Wrath, one good A skill obviously you're going to use is, if you want some additional bulk, you use like Fury. If you want just straight up really strong hits, and also to scale with her Vassal's Blade, then Brazen Attack speed is going to be really good there. And we just honestly got Linus come out on I think he's going to come either Grand Hero Battle or Tempest Trials reward. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he will give you that option if you do end up building Karla. So again, Seal can be like Heavy Blade, or if you want to really go for one-shots, or scale with Vassal's Blade, attack 3 seals, or speed 3 seals, or kind of what you want to go there. So yeah, Aether, Luna, Moonbow, try to go for those burst damage hits. But I think the biggest advantage Karla has is that consistent damage. And Ira, again, since she can use Regnal Astra at the top of arena tiers and get off like 2 Regnal Astras, whereas Karla can unfortunately only get like 1 Aether, it does still give Ira a huge advantage when it comes to consistent damage. But Karla will do better. For those of you that don't play at the top of the arena meta, she's much better in that case. Very strong unit, very good. Definitely very powerful, but unfortunately, again, it's just another red sword that's very consistent, very strong. Next up, we got best girl that can read. It's surprising that her stat spread is very similar to Infantry Nino, but the thing with this Nino is that she needs a super boon to hit 150 BST. I think it was like HP or res or something like that. It's just insane for what you need to do to make sure you want to use it for arena. So she can score better than old Nino because she has that Giga Excalibur you'd have to put on close counter, and then use kind of like a suboptimal boon here, which is either res or HP, unfortunately, instead of speed or attack. That's if you care about, scoring well with her. But I mean, she's a 5-star exclusive, so you'd have to spend thousands of orbs to even do that in the first place. It's not really a good idea if you're trying to aim for the top using Nino, but I can see why you would try to use your favorite characters in this case, because she can score as much as infantry that don't have legendary weapons. So that's pretty awesome. Again, Nino is going to scale really well, just like Karla does, because she's getting that extra true damage out of Giga Excalibur. Her speed stat's already insane. She can benefit from Honed Flyers. She can do some really powerful damage. You don't even need to swap out Giga Excalibur for Gromblade, but if you did, it's not a bad decision either. She has the highest speed out of all mages, actually, and it was funny because we were literally talking about Bridal Sanaki being much faster than Spring Camilla in the previous units being released. So now you have Nino here with 38 speed, just dethroning Sanaki, not even a month after she gets released. So if you ended up pulling for Sanaki, unfortunately, Sanaki will shine in a role of enemy phase green flyer, baiting out mages. So yeah, you're not going to be in a good position to be trying to use her as a ground blade. If you already invested in her, my deepest condolences and apologies. Nino is going to do that much better. Spring Camilla is still very good, and please don't ignore her capabilities. The fact that she's very tanky and has a decent attack stat means that she can attack into distant counter users, even red distant counter users, and be very strong in her own niche, which, Nino isn't going to be able to really do that without desperation or something like that. Yeah, so don't sleep on Spring Camilla. She's going to be really good. Snacky, unfortunately, got a little bit dethroned by Nino getting released here. Now, if you build her as a Blade Mage, the builds are very obvious. You just give Fury Desperation, smack it on there, or you could use Brazen Attack, Speed with Desperation. Again, Linus just is going to be given to us, so that's pretty awesome. You either use the Grand Blade, but even that same build can work with Giga Excalibur, and, just give her, like, Moonbow. If you do keep Giga Excalibur, then you probably want to use something like Draconic Aura, especially if she has Home Flyers or Attack Tactic to benefit from. Since the Grand Blade gives an additional special cooldown, that's why you use Moonbow or Glimmer. I personally prefer Glimmer, but you use whatever you have, okay? So the seal can be like speed, or it could be, if you wanted to take some hits because her bulk isn't very good, distant defense is also a good option. Pretty standard build, honestly. It's just a flying green mage. You can think of like Summer Corn compared to that, but she's kind of a little bit better here than Summer Corn because she has that extra BST and very optimized stat spread. Nothing too special. Honestly, if you already had Bridal Sanaki or Spring Camilla, I don't see reasoning on why you should be pulling for Nino. Alright. Wow. In fact, out of the units released, this is the one that surprises me, because he has a decent attack and 38 speed. Okay, that's crazy good. He has the extra BST added onto him just like Soth did, so he's really going to clean up. See what I did there? Okay. So, this has been tested. Cleaner and dull range do not work together, okay? They do not work together. It does sound like a very good combo where you can totally debuff, well not debuff, but ignore the buffs on the enemy team, but the cleaner will not give you that extra attack. So please don't end up foddering off your units trying that combo. It doesn't work, it's been tested, I can confirm it for you right now. That doesn't mean that it's not good though. You can still use cleaner and you can go for a straight up one shot. It is a reverse blade, so even though enemy defense teams don't necessarily buff consistently, you do have double rallies, which do happen a lot, and you do have some buffs like attack tactic or home flyers or fortify flyers, which give multiple buffs or have less positional requirements that ends up using Legault and is very good like counter usage. But the thing is, you don't really need to use cleaner on Legault if you're going to go for one shots. The thing is, cleaner would be better than on Kagero, who has more attack, or Soth, and then you go for those one shots. It's kind of like if you put them in like Arena Assault and you're like, whoa, that team has a lot of buffs, a lot of rallies, homes, fortifies, attack tactics, defense tactics, and boom, you just give the cleaner to the really high attack dagger units and go for the one shots. This is actually a cool concept to me, because I've always wondered like, where is the assassin class in Fire Emblem Heroes, and this is what I feel like as close as we're gonna get to an assassin class with some setup, right? The enemy team has buffs, I have cleaner, I clean up the unit because it got buffs, and you gotta put it on the higher attack daggers. The thing with Legault though is, with that speed stat, he's even better than Gaius here, so you could end up using Legault and go for a desperation double hit with cleaner. So that is still totally viable that he uses his own weapon. If you go for a one shot, then yeah, you just give it to Soth or Kagero. But if you go for a double, then Gaius or Legault, honestly just use Legault, does it better. So cleaner, very cool weapon. To do that setup, you either use Fury or you can use like Ardent Sacrifice. He actually has just enough HP that one Ardent Sacrifice will set up a Desperation for you. So cleaner, go with like Speed Refine if you're going for Desperation, you know, Ardent Sacrifice, and a pretty good option would definitely be something like Glimmer if you really want to utilize the extra attack that's given to you from the reverse, you know, blade effect when the enemy has that stat spread. So again, Seal's pretty obvious here. Speed if you're going to use it with Desperation, or you could go for attack if you already have enough speed. The C slots are always kind of optional. You don't really want to use Poise here. He doesn't really have the stats for it. And A skill, again, if you're just going within a certain threshold of health, what you want to use is Brazen Attack Speed or Fury. Oh look, speaking of Brazen Attack Speed, there he is! Okay, can everybody just give a moment of silence and sadness for Linus looking like the most... Sorry, Lloyd. Lloyd, why? This is amazing. If you fodder him off, well, you're probably making a mistake, because that is some chiseled body, man. And, you know, I swing one way, but, you know, I could consider, this is pretty good. This is pretty good, man. There's some good art, some good taste, So, we have a crazy good stat spread too, actually. Like, his attack is 37, which is extremely high. I think it's one of the highest for infantry axe users. I believe the other one that has really good is like Bartra at 36. Bravike has 35, 36. Yeah, he's really high up there. So it's insane how much attack this guy has. One of the highest for sure. And he has a really decent, like, it's not the greatest speed, but it's decent enough. And his defense is also really good. So he's kind of min-max in his stat spread, with res being, you know, where he really doesn't matter too much, because he probably shouldn't be fighting magical units. Comparing him to like a Raven, because they both have Basculos. This is the legendary weapon that Raven has. You can refine him with Life and Death. And he's still going to have 27 defense, which is still really good. And then he loses like all his res to go down to 14 res. But again, you just don't have him fight any sort of dragons, or you could probably kill Noe with it. But I mean, you just don't fight dragons, and you keep him away from mages. And he has a really optimized stat spread, reaching up to 58 attack with no merges and 38 speed. Like it's really good stat spread for one that doesn't have IVs. So you kind of build in the same way as Raven. I mean, you can go with Fury, Desperation, Gale Force, for instance, and he's going to do it just as well. In that case, he'd be using like Heavy Blade Seal, and obviously he's going to proc off Heavy Blade Seal. He doesn't feel that slow, because as long as you give him like one buff and speed, he's going to be reaching 42 speed. He could reach like 43 if you give him even a bit of ally support, the kind of stuff. Like, he's gonna reach a decent middling 40 speed, and that's without even merges. I mean, if we do end up getting merges on him, he'd be even more powerful. Also consider that you don't need to use like Fury Desperation, because he does actually come with Brazen Attack speed, so then he does have extremely fast blistering speed. The reason I kind of say Fury is because if you do care about using him on the enemy phase a little bit, it's a bit easier to set up with Fury because of the chip damage. That's all. Like, it's even though it seems like, why would I use Fury when Brazen Attack speed is there? You don't want to totally give up the bulk by using Life and Death, right? So that's why I kind of look at it like that. Okay, nonetheless, very powerful unit. These two, so far, like Legault and Linus, are actually the most impressive to me. And it's a good thing that Legault is likely to get demoted, I would say so. With, Karla and Nino just seem like more of the same. So, last up, we have Canis. I don't know what to say, honestly. Like, it just seems like we get so many of these red infantry mages in limited availability. Like, we've had Leon, Julius, Arvis. I mean, the stat spread looks so similar to Ray without being able to get merges. You have too many points in defense, not enough speed, attack is like, and then res is good, okay? So, but like, he doesn't really stand out on anything. So, as cool as he is, and I love Canis, you just don't see like what you can do with a unit that has limited availability like this. So, if you're using him because he's cool, well, all power to you. But honestly, and I hate to say this, Ray with merges does everything that Canis does better. I mean, a 4-star plus 10 Ray is going to have more stats than Canis here in every stat. That's the sad part. I guess maybe he'd have like 1 or 2 res less. So Canis is pretty much your fodder unit here. He's going to have Roral, which is finally not on a 5-star exclusive unit because of Canis. He has like res tactic fodder and such. I mean, yeah, it feels bad, man. It really does. But it is what it is. Maybe in the future they'll give him some preference weapon or something to make it good. We don't know. Sometimes we have these absolute beauty units, like this guy right here. That's a good free unit. I can have more of this. But sorry, Canis. When Ray is the one that's beating you, feels bad, man. Okay, so that's kind of like my assumption here, an analysis on these units. I hope you guys took something out of it. We're going to talk a little bit about the mathematics behind summoning, because this is always important. Some of you may have already summoned by the time you watch this, but hopefully I'll be able to reach out and maybe convince you otherwise on the future banners if needed, on what you can expect for these units. So, as some of you know, and maybe you don't know, the way it works is that the more saturated a color is in the summoning focus, the less likely you are to pull that unit. You can see this with Karla right here in red, having the most orbs needed to pull her, and then followed by Nino being the easiest to get because the green pool is the least saturated. So your orbs for star focuses are generally best spent on green, but the best fodder, especially that of 3 and 4 star, is kind of found in red. So when you do pull reds, you do end up getting cool stuff that's exclusive to the red pool, like Hanadas for Furies, Ares for Brazen Attack Defense, TA3 from Roy. There's a lot of good fodder. Those are just a few of some of the really good stuff in there. So pulling for reds is generally pretty good just because of that fodder there. On the other hand, green has some really good pity breaks. So if you do not get Nino, you could end up with like a Hector, you could end up with a Mur, you could end up with a male Grima. So there's some pretty good pity breakers there, as opposed to getting Luke from Karla. I mean, getting Luke from pulling for Karla. Okay, so just make sure you understand some of the mathematics in the pie chart here. I'll just go over it very quickly. Median, 100 orbs. This means that 1 in every 2 people will spend about 100 orbs to pull Karla. The average is 137 orbs. The 90th percentile, this means 1 in 10 people will spend about 305 orbs to pull Karla. That could be you, 1 in 10 people, okay? Don't always think that that just because you pulled on the previous banner in your free summon circle that it's going to happen again. So be very careful, make sure you educate yourself on this stuff. The first pull chance is 2.76%. This means that it's roughly about 1 in 36, about 1 in 36, 37 people will get a free Karla. Next up, Legault. As you can see there, it's pretty much a 1 in 33 chance to get him off of Akariss. Again, I wouldn't really be targeting him just because there's a good chance he could get demoted. The median is 90 orbs, the average is 120, and for 1 in 10 people, 262 orbs is what you can expect to use if you feel that you may not have variance on your side. And finally, Nino is the easiest to get here for the least amount of orbs, but again, it's still a pretty hefty investment for the average, which is 109 orbs. You have to consider, guys, that we do receive about 300 to about 350 free-to-play orbs per month. So one banner like this, even if you're targeting one, could potentially take all your orbs if you're 1 in 10 people, or it could end up taking 1/3 of your orbs. And don't forget that we have a new seasonal summer banner coming. We have another legendary banner coming at the end of the month, and that legendary banner is very likely to be very good on account of having Winter Lisa with Bullfighter, maybe Mur with Honed Dragons, and just generally being a good unit. We're definitely going to get Winter Tharja with Vengeful Fighter. Legendary Ike is going to make a return. Legendary Ephraim is going to make a return. We're going to get a new legendary hero. Again, these are all things to consider. The seasonal summer will get rerun, so if you liked Summer Freddy, Summer Robin, Summer Gaius, as such, you should be making sure you're very careful, specific, and focused on exactly what you want. Don't forget, these units will be in the permanent pool. It's not like a rush that you need these units ASAP. You might end up getting them as a pity break, pulling on seasonal banners, for instance, in the future. One of them might get demoted. For all we know, they might shock us. We don't know what happens because no one really expected Ares getting demoted from the previous banner. So who knows? Maybe they'll put Karla with Wrath in the 4-star pool. One can only dream, right? Either way, Legault being demoted with Attack, Tactic, and Cleaner is amazing too. I don't really think Nino will get demoted, but hey, it is what it is. So, much love to everybody watching as always. If you feel you learned something from the video, be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you love Teach, if you love Sensei, then I guess you can click one of these to show me that you're feeling good, okay? Peace.